Good afternoon and welcome to this press conference following today's informal video conference of EU ministers responsible for culture and audiovisual. It was chaired today from Berlin by Minister of State Monika Grütters, Federal Commissioner for Culture and the Media of the German government, and we will begin with statements by the State Minister, followed by the EU Commissioner responsible for culture, EU Commissioner Maria Gabriel. And without much further ado, I would now like to pass the floor to Berlin. Frau Staatsministerin, Sie haben das Wort.
Ja, liebe Frau Körber, meine sehr...
Yes, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic are a red line running through all of the issues and the management of our Council presidency. The European Ministers for Culture and Media face the impact of this also, and we all agree that the European culture sector has never faced such an intense challenge as today. We had many digital and analog hybrid meetings. This council was held virtually, but was also accompanied by many commissioners who joined us. There was a great deal of interest shown. As regards the substance, we all agree that the sector is facing many challenges, but is key to a resilient European Union. The creativity of the people working in this sector have always played an important role towards growth and a growth dynamic in the European Union. Because of the limitations of the pandemic, this has become even more patent. That is why we must support the entire sector and the creatives who work in it in order to bring them through the crisis. That is something that both national authorities and the European level have to work to do. We have to provide a safety net for our creative and cultural infrastructure, not just the creatives working in it, but also the infrastructure. Otherwise, the sector could collapse and not survive through the crisis, which would be an extreme shame. All of the culture and media ministers agreed that anything we lose in the crisis will be difficult to recover, which is why we all have to take action at the national and European level. What was also clear is how important professional journalism is, how important it is to have a reliable, independent media landscape in the crisis. About 60% of the news media is written, and it's extremely important that journalism remains of high quality and independent, but it also has to remain credible. We have to, therefore, see how the support provided by the European Union can make a difference in the cultural sector and reach the cultural sector. It will play a very important role. We have to ensure that it is taken into account in the recovery and the recovery funds. We're going to be setting up a Creative Europe contact point in Bonn to ensure that the creative industry can find their way through the jungle of support provided by the European bodies. We're also looking at setting up an app for this purpose to help the sector find its way through the jungle of options out there. The ministers also had a number of things to say about the Creative Europe programme for the future. It's going to have 2.24 billion euros, which is 800 more than to date. This is a clear sign of recognition and solidarity for our sector. All of the culture and media ministers were very committed and worked very hard on this point and had a digital exchange with the European Parliament, and we are very pleased, indeed proud, that this programme has once again been beefed up But in order to ensure that it remains effective, then the new MFF has to come into force for the period 2021-2027. We were also pleased that, along with the colleagues from the other member states, we were able to work on Council conclusions to ensure a free and pluralistic media system. The Ministers of Culture and Media approved those conclusions today. In the run-up to today's Council, we dealt intensively with many of these issues around a free, independent, sustainable and pluralistic media. It drew a lot of attention. The conclusions, therefore, address, in addition to the economic impact of a stable media landscape, they also looked at other issues, including future challenges to ensure media sustainability in Europe, and measures that can be taken to fight against misinformation, which is a topic we always have to look at. We also looked at ways of improving the legal footing of issues around cross-border media and ensuring that there is a proper framework for the freedom of the press, independent journalism and a pluralistic media landscape across all European member states, because they are so essential. For all of these reasons, it's important that these Council conclusions were passed at a moment in time when the Commission is working on a number of its own initiatives. For example, the Action Plan for Media and Audiovisual, the European Action Plan for Democracy, and the legislative packet for digital services, which has been much discussed recently. The Council hopes that the messages sent by the Council conclusions will work their way into the finalisation of the Commission's proposals. The work of the Council was accompanied by a series of digital conferences which ran from June to October through our Council presidency. It was an innovative new format, but it worked very well and looked at the role and responsibilities of the media in the digital landscape. Today we also looked at a second very important topic. Above and beyond the conclusions, we had a very intensive discussion about the very avant-garde media landscape in our member states and around the topic of visibility for issues of gender and the need to have women in key positions, because there is a great we're very much behind there. We want to make progress, and we're very proud that we have discussed the topic on the agenda of a Culture Council for the first time and had indeed an extensive discussion of it. Equal opportunities now stands very high up the agenda for the next presidency under Portugal. The Minister of Media and Culture for Portugal wants to make progress on that during the Portuguese presidency. And it was our opinion that culture not only has to reflect and promote diversity in our member states, but it has to also work vice versa. Diversity and visibility are very important, and media should not only mirror that, but also feed into it, because it would improve creativity for all. For these reasons, it was very important to note that all 27 member states worked on the text, even if in the end only 24 of the member states were able to vote in favour of the conclusions. That had less to do with the text of the conclusions than to do with a structural issue around the conclusions. There were a number of member states who do not want to make this issue a horizontal issue at the European level. Nonetheless, those three missing member states did work in and on the conclusions and agree with the substance of the matter, meaning that Instead of being Council conclusions, these are conclusions of the German presidency, but I think that nonetheless we have made progress and we can expect more progress. All of this is also very important, for example, against the backdrop of the fact that for the first time we have a female Commission President and a parity Commission. It is clear to see that progress is being made. A number of other topics will be on the agenda moving forwards. For example, looking towards the European Capitals of Culture of the future. The two current cities of culture have faced very difficult circumstances because of the current pandemic and the lockdown restrictions. Therefore, a pragmatic decision was taken to allow the two cities from 2020 to continue their work into the first half of 2021, the city of Galway in Ireland and the Croatian city. And it's very important that we have taken this pragmatic approach. The cities for next year in Greece, Romania and Novi Sad in Serbia will also be able to move forward with their preparations and work. In the years to come, a German city will be a capital of culture for the fourth time. It will be Chemnitz in Saxony. Chemnitz will be working around its attractiveness, Chemnitz being a city which is not always seen in that light, but has picked a motto which links to its attractiveness, and I think that's been a good choice. They'll be working with Slovenia also, which is another country which will be hosting a capital of culture. So in 2025, they will be taking on the capital of culture, and we look forward to it. The agenda also had a number of important items. The Netherlands raised the issue of heritage from a colonial past. This was an important issue which had been discussed previously at a meeting here in Berlin, and at which a number of colleagues were able to discuss this debate at the Humboldt conference. We in Germany place a lot of importance on this issue and the importance of tackling and working on the aftermath of this colonial period. We've also set up a contact point for countries for people from the countries of origin who can contact German museums, and we think that it needs a strong impulse from the European level, and today it was the Netherlands that gave that. Then we moved on to a different debate which was promoted by France regarding for example, the implementation of Article 17. Many of us are working intensively on the issue of copyright at the national level and moving towards the implementation of the new rules. And we looked at it today again. It's always an important topic on the agenda of the Ministers for Media and Culture. Dario Franceschini, the colleague from Italy, raised the efforts to promote reading, which opens new horizons, creates mutual understanding. Many of the colleagues took the floor on this point when the Italian colleague presented ideas along these lines of setting up a campaign to promote reading at the European level. From this, it was clear to see that many member states have a great deal of interest in this from the cultural perspective, and we observed that many museums, theatres and concert venues are closed, but that books are saving the day for culture, and it's important to continue to point towards reading as a very important thing indeed. Finally, with its presidency and on culture, Germany has held a total of 24 key events looking at sustainability, cultural diversity, cultural heritage. All of this was organised digitally, although there were a number of hybrid, indeed analogue meetings, including the one at Humboldt. Culture in media is extremely creative and extremely flexible, which are key skills that were needed in this crisis. On the 14th of September, we held the event at the Humboldt Forum, which is very ambitious and innovative, and we were very proud of it. We hope that the next event on the 18th of May in Brussels under the Portuguese presidency will be able to be held along traditional lines with everyone coming for the event. We look forward to it. Nonetheless, we'd like to express our thanks to all of the technicians working for us here and to all of you. Still, we think that it's better to be able to have these events in person. Finally, this year we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the birth of Ludwig von Beethoven, who wrote the Ode to Joy, which serves as the European anthem. And during our presidency, we have put a spotlight on this at a number of times at the beginning and now towards the end. And we'll be holding... We had planned to hold an event here in Brussels around Beethoven. Unfortunately, it's going to be a digital-only event, which is very sad for us, but we continue to be committed to all of these issues around culture. Thank you very much.
Ganz herzlichen Dank nach Berlin, Frau Grütters.
Thank you very much, Ms. Grütter.
Gabriel, to give her introductory statement. Madame la Commissaire, vous avez la parole.